full 30 minutes or however long I do this. But I have seen your question about how does Rufus die? And what time do Mateo and Rufus die? That's in the book. I definitely don't remember that off the top of my head. I know that Mateo gets his death cast call at 12:22, which no matter if it's like day or night, whenever I see 12:22, I immediately think about Mateo. And Rufus gets his death cast call at 1:05. All right, someone just asked how I'm loving my new apartment. I'm loving my new apartment. I'm not there right now. This is my friend's apartment. He is out doing a workout. But it's like my friend who I've been like safely seeing during this pandemic. So do not drag me in the comments thinking that I'm being reckless. I am one of the most annoying people during this pandemic, I swear. All right. You guys are sending really sweet questions. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of like pop-up notifications. I don't do this enough to understand what this is. Okay. Nice hair, bro. Thank you. Yeah, I'm hiding it right now. Do you still think it's nice hair? Because I don't. What I think about J.K. Rowling's comments. I think that they're extremely dangerous and really harmful to the trans community, and I'm really disappointed in one of my favorite creators. I wish that J.K. Rowling would actually engage in more thorough and direct conversations with trans activists instead of the bullshit feminism that she's running her mouth on. So that's my take. And as a person with a Harry Potter tattoo, like I am really struggling with J.K. Rowling right now. So anyway, I'm gonna kick into They Both Die at the end now that we've done a little pre-game sesh. Thank you all so much for popping in today to have this conversation with me about this book that is 3 years old. I feel like I'm like, for the better part of 2020, I've been like pushing Infinity Sun, which of course is my newest book. It's a fantasy novel and it's the start of a series. And I don't feel like I've gotten to talk a lot about like my previous books as much this year. So I'm really glad that everyone's sort of taken the time to pop in and chat about this book with me. And also thank you all so much for your continued support and word of mouth on this book, because They Both Die at the End just recently popped back on the New York Times bestseller list, and I was really stunned by that and so grateful. And that was like 3 days ago, so it was like really beautiful timing, and now I get to celebrate that with all of you who helped make this happen. So all right, I'm gonna start answering some questions. TV show. The TV show is still option with HBO, but I'm gonna be really honest, I haven't seen a lot of movement lately, which is really disappointing to me as well. And I know that the writer is also busy with like a different show that he's created, which I love that show as well. And I think this pandemic has hit a lot of people really hard. So I don't know, but if I have more insights and I have more concrete things, I will absolutely share them with you. But I know that that's like not the news that anyone came here for, so I'm sorry. Can I give a hint about my next contemporary? It involves two boys that you guys are familiar with that are not in this world. Their names are Arthur and Ben. That is all I can say. All right. How did Rufus die? Okay. So that was a question that I always said that I wouldn't answer directly. And it's really funny to me because I thought it was clear, but a lot of people 100% get it from the get-go. A lot of people don't. Like, it's funny, if you type in Google, like, how does Rufus die? And They Both Die at the End, like, you'll get people, like, who have, like, provided the answers. But basically, when I constructed that, Rufus... also, I saw someone say that they're reading the book right now. This is a super spoilery chat, and I'm about to spoil some stuff, so this is sort of your, like, 10-second warning to, like, get out of here if you don't want to be spoiled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, spoiler chat, let's go. So Rufus gets a call at 1:05 from a deathcast operator, Victor, and they have a conversation where Victor's like, look, bro, like, I'm not the one who's, like, killing you. Like, I'm just the messenger. Like, don't kill the messenger, essentially. Little do they both know, Victor ultimately is the reason that Rufus dies, because we learn that Victor is racing in his car to go say goodbye to his fiance, Delilah, and he's very urgently trying to get there. And we see that Delilah is in, I believe, like a cafe or a diner across the street from Anthea Park, which is where Rufus is on his way back to after Mateo dies. So it's sort of, we don't see it, but Rufus's last line being across the street without an arm to hold me back is representative of how he was kind of reckless without Mateo, and with Mateo being gone at that point in the book, that Rufus is kind of not careful, and Victor is also rushing, so they kind of meet at a crossroads, and the book goes there. I know a lot of people wanted to see Rufus's death. I never wanted to show that. I think showing Mateo's death was brutal enough. It's funny, I got fan art for the Mateo death scene maybe a couple months after the book came out, and I was just destroyed. You know, it's one thing to imagine it, and it's another thing to sort of like have it in front of you. And I like regretted killing Mateo in that way. Like, I really wish that I had done something a little gentler. I wish he had died in his sleep peacefully. I'm about to like cry right now. And I like seeing it done in such a like graphic way really made me regret that choice. But it is what it is, and I can't take it back. And it's also it's a real death, you know. And I didn't want this book to romanticize death in any way. I think sometimes some stories fail at that. And sorry, I feel like I have like a hair like on my lip. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. I hope that clears up. So yeah, Victor killed Rufus, and that sucked. Sorry. All right. What other questions do you have? Sorry, I can't like keep scrolling through. So if you want to keep spamming me with your question, like, that's okay. I won't. All. The proper goodbyes. Okay, so someone just said that they wish that Mateo and Rufus had proper goodbyes. I don't know if that's like with each other or with like their general like cast of people, because we know that they sort of had to flee after the incident at that dance club business. But I think Mateo and Rufus understood what they meant to each other, you know, and they knew that everything could have been so sudden, and they made the most of that moment. So. How's Penny? Penny is Lydia's daughter, and I like to believe that Penny is doing really well, and that Lydia is constantly giving her stories on her Uncle Mateo. Did I get to work on the cover? So no, and what's great, so I love this cover. It was designed by Aaron Fitzsimmons, and the art is by Simon Prades, and I'm obsessed with it. I got the cover sketch like very kind of like when I was like in the middle of revising the book, and I had no idea what to expect. Originally, I had pictured the cover looking like Mateo and Rufus, like a photo of them, kind of gritty, staring out into whoever's looking at them with like the title in bold. And I never gave that suggestion. I was like, let's see what they come up with, and I loved it. And I'm so glad that I didn't, you know, try to design that cover at all, because it's glorious. Like, and also, by the way, 3 years later, this shadow makes a reaper. A lot of people don't know that. I noticed it immediately. My first agent had no idea until I told him. And also, there's like a skull in the sky. It's a really genius cover, and that was all thanks to Erin Fitzsimmons, who sketched it out. She's a genius, and I'm so grateful I get to work with her at HarperCollins. What about Mateo's father? Did his dad survive? How's Mateo's dad doing? 3 questions back to back about Mateo's dad. I think that Mateo's dad wakes up, and I believe that he sees the the Instagram, Rufus's Instagram, and get an understanding about how Mateo lived his final day. And I was thinking about the dad recently, and I was like, I'd love to write that scene one day, as heartbreaking as that would be, but I think it'd be important for me, so maybe for the 5th anniversary or something. Yeah, and it's you know what's really funny about this book, because I think with the title, a lot of people didn't believe it was going to happen, right? That Mateo and Rufus were actually going to die at the end. And there was a really good theory that someone shared with me, I don't know, some point after the book came out, where Mateo and his dad share a name. Like, Mateo is Mateo Torres Jr., and they were like, oh, maybe the call was intended for, like, the different Mateo Torres. And I never thought about that. Like, that was not me trying to throw in a red herring at all. It was, I don't know, I just thought that, like, Mateo's name had been passed down. So that was an accidental red herring. What about the UK cover? I did not come up with that either. I have not come up with any cover for They Both Die at the End. That was done by the artist Jack, whose last name I'm blanking on right now, but he's incredible. And he actually has his own books out now too. But yes. When did the title come into play during the writing process? The title is the first thing that came into play, actually. Well, I guess like the second thing technically, but I was at one of my best friend's house in 2012. I was holding her newborn daughter. I don't know why I always have to like demonstrate what holding a baby looks like, but my goddaughter, and I just had this like overwhelming fear of like, what if someone just like broke into the house right now and like killed us? Like, we'd have no warning, and that would suck. And then I'm like, well, what would the world look like if we had a warning? And then the title came, They Both Die at the End, and I had no idea who they were. And that's when I immediately, like, I remember I handed my goddaughter back to my friend, and I like pulled up my laptop on the floor, and I was just like typing there, and it's like, who are they? And I started playing around with names, and originally I thought it was going to be like a boy-girl story, because I was like, this is so high concept, I could probably get that like Fault in Our Stars money out of it. But then I'm like, you know what? I want to be a queer creator telling queer stories, because that's really important for me, and there was such an absence of that when I was growing up, and I don't need to put out more straight stories in the world. Like, that shit is out there. Like, no one needs my help with that. But yeah, so the title came really early, before I even knew who Mateo and Rufus were. All right, another question. I don't handle any of the translations. I'm so sorry. Is there an afterlife in the They Both Die at the End universe? I like to believe so, but I think that's, you know, person by person. We all carry our own beliefs. Someone's asking about the Instagram accounts that are associated with the book. I have created none of those accounts, so that is all thanks to incredible fans who wanted to tell those stories. And I know I've seen like the Rufus Instagram and the Ame Instagram, but I have not created any of those. And I met the reader who created the Rufus one. I think it was at a tour stop in DC, and that was really lovely. What's one thing I would change, think I could do better, besides Mateo's death? Great question. What would I change? I really had a lot of fun telling the interstitial stories. Those are the ones that are the non-Mateo Rufus stories. I feel like I would have told more of those, but yeah, apart from that, honestly, it's not a book where I look back on it and have like a lot of regrets. I also haven't reread it in years. I intended on rereading it before this chat, and I am so busy on deadline that I just didn't have the time. So I'm sorry. Do I have a playlist for my books? I do not, but someone posted a They Both Die at the End playlist on Twitter today that I will retweet later, that you could check out. I don't know, I'm sorry. Why would I change Mateo's death? Only just because it was so brutal, and it's just brutal. That's honestly what it comes down to, but sorry. What was my favorite scene? I really love the scene where Mateo is dancing with Rufus and is singing. I have like, so Mateo singing poorly is based on me. I cannot sing. I will not demonstrate that right now either. I'm sorry. I've saved that for a future live. And you know, and I have so many friends around me who sing so beautifully, And they was like, oh, sing. And I'm like, no, like, you sing beautifully. Like, I'm not gonna like ruin the vibe with like my off-keyness, you know? Like, I just can't. So, but it's terrible, right? Because I sing so much. I sing so much when I'm by myself. I'm always singing in the shower. I'm always rapping by myself. Like, you have to understand, like, one of my, like, things to calm myself down, I will go learn a rap. Like, that's something that I do. And I will just, like, rehearse in front of the mirror. It's very 8 Mile. Becky, hi, Becky. Becky says I have the voice of an angel, and she is a beautiful liar. But I don't have it in me, so I think it's, like, really beautiful that Mateo took advantage of that warning so he can like enjoy that moment for himself. And it's the kind of thing where I often think about my life, like what am I going to regret on my deathbed sort of deal. And I think if I don't take the opportunity to sing more, I would regret that on my deathbed 100%. And I'm 30 and I'm still like struggling with that, you know, but I am trying. I will get there at some point. I will start with my friends more and more often. Okay. Spoke a little bit. Favorite scene. That was that one. Where do I think Rufus and Mateo would be now if they hadn't died? It's funny. I don't think they would have met. Is the problem? You know, like they met because of the Last Friend app, and I spent over 27 years of my life in New York, and there's no way I met even like 10% of the people who were there, right? And let alone like have meaningful engagement with them. And so I don't know. And you know, Mateo, I think, was developing more and more sort of like agoraphobic tendencies that were just going to keep him inside more and more. And I think that would have kept them at an even greater distance from connecting with Rufus. So that sucks, right? But I think that's kind of the point of the book, that these two met because of their circumstances. And as they sort of reflect, you know, especially Mateo, like it was better for Mateo to have gotten one day right instead of a lifetime of wrongs. Would I make a spin-off about one of the characters who didn't die in the book? Absolutely. Look, I have so many ideas for books that exist in this Deathcast universe. I am currently writing 2 different sequels, so I do not have time to explore any of these until those are all done, but I would love to do that. Is Deathcast supernatural? Okay, and then I'm seeing this question a lot. How does Deathcast make the predictions? I do not know. I swear to everything. I swear to Mateo and Rufus. I do not know. I have had like a weird theory in my head this entire time, but I don't know if it's magic. I don't know if it's extraterrestrial. I do not know if it's science fiction. I do not know. And, you know, and I've gotten this question a lot, you know, where people are like, oh, like the world building wasn't there or whatever because we don't know how it works. I'm like, that's intentional. And also you have to understand, when we are telling stories from first-person perspectives, the way I write is that I am not going to have a character investigate something purely for the reader's convenience. That is inauthentic thinking for me. Like if I'm not sitting here, like I use this example a lot, especially with Infinity Sun. Do any of you know how to build an airplane? Do any of you understand how airplanes actually fly? I'm guessing most of you don't, yet most of you still get on airplanes anyway, and you just accept that it's a thing. Deathcast is that thing. You do not know how it works, you just know that it does work. So you're not questioning it. You're not questioning it the same way that you're not questioning how your cell phone works or how I am able to talk to you right now through Instagram Live when a lot of us aren't even in the same time zone. These are just things that are sort of like built in, and some people have engineered them, and I don't know who has engineered the Deathcast prediction model. And I have an idea to play around with that in a future Deathcast book, should I write them, but I do not have a concrete answer, and I'm sorry if you've been waiting 3 years to now arrive at this chat expecting one. All right. My favorite book that I wrote, honestly, I can't answer that. They're all so special to me in different reasons. So this one, you know, a lot of them especially written by like, because of my own like fears and anxieties, and you know, this one in particular has helped me like break out a little bit more and reframe how I want to live my life and make my choices. So yes. Do they find each other in the afterlife? Do Mateo and Rufus find each other in the afterlife? I like to believe so. I am not a super religious person. I have actually had some struggles with religion in most recent years. I respect everyone's faith, of course, because, you know, do your thing. Like, that's fine. But I myself, I don't even know how I would like identify right now, but I do believe in an afterlife, and I believe in a creator of some sort. I'm not sure that I would believe that creator is God necessarily in the way that I was sort of like raised to believe, but I do believe in something of that matter. Looking forward to the special edition of More Happy Than Not. You mean this beauty? I will talk more about that towards the end of the chat. If it seems like I'm about to sign off and I haven't talked about it, please like caps lock comments until I do. Did I struggle writing in this structure with the different points of views? Yes and no. I had so much fun with it because Mateo and Rufus do have such limited perspectives, and there was a point where I only told the story from their perspectives, and that was great for me, but then it had me wondering, well, what's happening with like Rufus's friends, and what's happening with Mateo's best friend Lydia, and all this other stuff, and like how are we getting here? Like my editor Andrew Eliopoulos, he described They Both Die at the End as a dark game of Jenga, and which I always really loved, because you know, all these interstitial perspectives are so important that if you removed one, you lose something sort of important to the story. And so yeah, I was always finding out like which were the right ones to go in, but basically I had an entire different journey for all those perspectives. At one point, I remember there was a bus driver, there was a guy with a dog, there was the dog's perspective at one point. And it was over the holidays of 2016. I was at my then boyfriend's family's house, and I was on deadline, I had to turn in the book, and I rewrote all of those perspectives. And I just remember sitting in this like kitchen, like getting everything done, and everybody like feeding me food and being so incredible while I like got my work done. And yeah, but I had so much fun creating those. And as right now I'm writing a book with 4 narrators, the Infinity Cycle series, and I'm never doing that again. But I would happily do 2 narrators plus smaller perspectives again. All right. Would I ever consider giving Peck more depth or more of a backstory? I mean, not really. Peck's a piece of shit, and I'm not interested in like making him a better person. I think some people just suck, and I think Peck's one of them. Okay, but hey, maybe something will pop up in a future story where, I don't know, maybe Peck's less shitty. If I could pick any existing song for a They Both Die at the End show, what song do you think would fit best? Oh, what is the name of the song? I really love American Pie by Billy Joel. I think that one is really fitting with This Will Be the Day That I Die. Like that, yeah, I think that was it. If I made you a drawing, what should I do to get you to see it? Tag me in it. Important thing, guys. I love They Both Die at the End fan art. Rufus gets whitewashed a lot, so if you want me to like engage with your fan art, can we please not make Rufus white? You know? And I'm like, it's clear in the text, and I'm sure like multiple places, that like Rufus is brown skinned, he's Cuban American, and yeah, he's not white. And Mateo is like not white either. He definitely has like a lighter complexion, but just putting it out there. Not trying to like drag anybody particularly, but when asked about the fan art, I feel like that's important to put out there. So, thanks. All right. Did I cry while writing the book? Great question. It is, I think, the only book that I cried while writing, because I know I got teary during a What If It's Us part towards the end of like the first draft. But They Both Die at the End was the only book that had me like crying, and it was the scene where Rufus dragged Mateo's body out of the apartment and he's cradling him. Like it was like 5 or 6 in the morning. I finished the book that night. Like I was able to just like get straight through it. But Yeah, I was just crying so hard in the kitchen. Just, yeah, it was rough. Let's see. Do any other characters cameo in this book? Like from my other works, no. I guess there's like my Scorpius Hawthorne extension, which I first created in Harry Potter. And that was, I created like a demonic Harry Potter, and to be honest, feeling really great that I didn't lean fully into Harry Potter, because J.K. Rowling kind of fucking sucks right now. If I had the power, what would I like the TV show to not change? I've always said from the beginning, and like the most important thing to me is that Mateo and Rufus remain queer boys of color. Like that is like the hill I die on. Like if you see me not supporting any incarnation of that show, it's going to be because of important foundational things like that where I didn't feel heard, and as a result I won't be heard about the show because I won't talk about it, and I won't promote it. Again, I mentioned the TV show. I don't have any major updates right now. Do I think about a little crossover like Griffin meeting Arthur and Ben or something? That would be lovely. I mean, Becky and I, we have a scene in What If It's Us where there's it's just kind of like a little mini Griffin cameo where Griffin is buying condoms at Dwayne Reed, and I believe this is Dwayne Reed that like Ben's dad established to work at now. So that's there, and that was like our little like fun nod to that. We have a couple nods to our books in What If It's Us. Can they be happy in the afterlife? I like to think so. I like to think the afterlife is a great place, unless it's, you know, a hell afterlife, in which case that's probably not as fun. Would I prefer my books to be adapted as TV shows instead of movies? It depends on the book. I think They Both Die at the End would always make for a great TV show, but I'm open to being proven wrong in a movie or a Broadway play, assuming Broadway gets to be reopened. While I have you guys here, please make sure you're registered to vote so we can get Trump the fuck out of office and actually have a president in place who gives a shit about protecting the people during this pandemic. Thank you. Are the Plutos named like this because all the members are like Pluto, left out, and have no family? 100% correct. How do I think Mateo would deal with the pandemic? Mateo would stay indoors even more, and if he had to go outside, he'd wear a mask. Great question, thank you. Are the Plutos okay? I think so. I think the Plutos are, you know, are Malcolm, Tego, Ame, like they're grieving their friend for sure, but they're also going to be inspired by Rufus and always remembering him. Let's see. I would love to see a stage adaptation of one of my books. I think What If It's Us would be a really fun one. I think Here's History Is All You Left Me would be a really fun stage adaptation. Yeah. I'm just looking for comments, things that I haven't answered. Have I had a chance to listen to some of the Both Dead at the End audiobook? It is the first audiobook of mine that I listened to the entire way through, and I love it. I listened to it while I was touring for the book, so it kept a lot of details fresh for me. Because it's funny, there was a chapter that I thought was in the book that I cut, like, sort of towards the end. I don't even remember what it... Oh, yes! There was... Okay, this is a fun thing to share with you guys. There used to be a chapter where Mateo and Rufus visited a psychic, and the psychic had no idea what the fuck she was talking about. Like, absolutely no clue. And I remember listening to the audiobook thinking, oh, the psychic chapter's next, and I was waiting for it, and then I just skipped ahead. I'm like, wait, what happened? And then I remembered, I'm like, oh, I cut it. And basically, the psychic was saying something to Mateo and Rufus about, oh, you guys are gonna have like a long future together, you have such like strong lives ahead of you or whatever, and they both know in the moment, like, she's full of shit. And but it was a really fun scene to write, and because I love psychics and everything, but she was definitely a fraud. So yeah, but that chapter got cut, so thank you for that question, because it just brought that memory back for me. What happened to Delilah? Oh, this is a really popular question, and I'm so sorry. I mean, Delilah dies, but I have no idea how. And I kind of didn't give thought to it. Like, I'm just being honest with you guys. Like, I don't want to like bullshit you and be like, oh, well, I wanted to keep it vague. I didn't think about it. It was sort of, I was writing Mateo and Rufus's story, and once Rufus's story came to a close, all threads that sort of didn't find their place, that's life. You know, we don't get all the answers, and yeah, so I have no idea. I don't know, like, go fanfic that one. I think, look, if I ever wrote another book that took place in the Deathcast universe and it involved, let's say, Victor, the Deathcast operator, we'd get some insight, right? But if I stage it somewhere else, like in Los Angeles where I live now, I don't think we would get like the Delilah story without it seeming forced. But who knows? I'm an impressive writer, and I like to think that if I do want to fit a detail in somewhere, that I could. Did I always intend for the book to take place over a single day, or did I play around with other time limits? It was always over the course of a day with 24 hours max, which the book is like 20 hours, 19 hours. I wanted to see how quickly people could fall for each other. Okay, fun fact. So I think, I don't know if Becky's still here, but she would remember this story. I went on a date with someone, a first date with someone, and the rule was, I was being set up by someone, by a former coworker, and this guy's name was Andrew. I have too many Andrews in my life. But this guy, Andrew, was so sweet. We had exchanged a couple of emails. I was like, hi, I'd love to go on a date with you, but would you be willing to go on a 12-hour date with me? Because I just want to see how much I can get out of like being with someone for 12 hours. I was fully honest. Like, I was not doing like sneaky investigative journalism or anything. And he was super sweet. So we committed to a 12-hour date. And it was like, even if we don't like each other, we're committing to hanging out for 12 hours. Like, can you do that? And he did it. And we had a lovely time. And I saw him a few more times after that. It wasn't a Mateo and Rufus story by far, but it was lovely. And I just wanted to see how quickly people can fall for each other during a time. And I have definitely fallen for people really hard and really fast. And yeah, Becky, you definitely, Becky, this is when we were like still emailing each other before I think we had each other's phone numbers. Sorry, I'm responding to like Becky's comments on this. Did Victor get fired is the next question. Victor probably went to jail. He ran over Rufus. I mean, yeah, and I don't know, maybe he got fired too, but yes. Adam will do anything for his craft. Thank you, Becca. Very true. And yeah, all right. I think, what time is it? Because I'm holding my friend's apartment hostage, so I'm going to start kind of wrapping up in a bit. I have not forgotten about More Happy. I just want to answer a few more questions for you guys. If I had a symbol or object to represent the book, what would it be? This may or may not be tattoo related. Oh, yay. Okay. I really love the clocks that are here and the clocks that are throughout the book as well, right? Unless I am a liar, which teenage Adam, fun fact, huge liar, lied all the time. Yeah, there's these little clocks in there that I really love, and they're subtle. And if you come to hate the book later, you can always just say like, oh, it's a clock. So yeah. Is Mateo's dad still alive? I think so. My favorite quote in the book, damn it. I guess I should have also tried to prep and ask you guys questions, or ask for questions beforehand so I can answer them. I like the line where Mateo says, I kissed the boy who brought me to life on my last day. Yeah, I almost didn't put that one in. I was like, is that too romantic? Is that too writery? And I'm like, you know, I don't give a shit. I love it. I think Mateo would feel it, and I put it in. Cool. Did I consider other causes of deaths? So, okay, I did not. I was, when I was dating my first boyfriend, we talked about it in a movie theater. I was like pitching the book to him and everything, and he was actually the one who was like, what if Mateo dies at home, where he was hiding his entire life? And I loved that. And then I thought, like, Mateo would die trying to do something nice for someone else because that's who he is. And then the whole thing with the like arm holding back that Mateo does with Rufus, that's what I used to do with this ex-boyfriend of mine, because he wasn't from New York, but when he visited me here, he did not know how to like cross the streets in New York. Like he was just not paying attention. He's like from a small town, and so I was constantly like saving his life. And then it turns out that he like kept doing that because he liked me touching him. So yeah, sweet guy. And so I built that into the book as well. And I never changed those deaths from there. Would I ever make a deluxe edition of They Both Die at the End like I did More Happy Than That? Absolutely. Look, I love this book so much, and there's so many more stories I could tell in there that if I don't just even write like a companion novel or something, I would still want to do something else. Like, hold me to this for the next 2 years. We'll start telling me that over the next year or so. If it doesn't seem like I'm putting out another Deathcast book, just nudge me, be like, hey, can you write that like Mateo dad scene? I think that's the story I'm most interested in telling right now. Maybe it's also from Lydia's perspective or something too. But I'd love to cover the moment where Mateo's dad wakes up and comes to this crushing new reality of his son being gone. Would I ever release They Both Die with deleted chapters? No, I would not do that. They were deleted for a reason. I will tell you all about them in these like exclusive chats, but because then I have to like try to pretend I'm not going to edit like my past work that doesn't actually matter anymore. But if I ever put something out, I would do it, but I'm not going to like sell that. Do I own the Instagram pages mentioned They Both Die at the End? No, because I was an idiot who didn't claim them. But thankfully, I have incredible readers who took that on for me and did more with it than I ever would have. Let's see. Oh, Mateo and Rufus in the Afterlife. Okay, I don't think I would ever write a Mateo and the Rufus Afterlife scene because I think that would be cementing something, that would be cementing an unknown that I don't have answers for. I think if I were writing a fantasy novel and I want to, really lean into like what an afterlife looks like and everything, fine. And it's like no disrespect to anyone who believes in afterlives. I do as well, but I think we all probably also have our own like respective visions of afterlives according to different factors. But I don't know how comfortable I feel putting out one that feels canon to the story. So sorry. Was it hard on you talking so much about death? Honestly, I struggle so much with death. Becky and I were talking about this because we're both like highly anxious people when it comes to death. And it was therapy for me before I started therapy properly this past fall. Writing has always been therapeutic for me. More Happy Than Not is me exploring suicide. History Is All You Left Me is me exploring death of a loved one. They Both Die at the End is me exploring death of self. Infinity Sun is exploring immortality and resurrection, and What If It's Us is my recess from death. Though there is like a little moment where it seems like something might go down. Let's see. The funeral for Rufus. Sorry, this person said last time they got to the part where the Plutos were holding the funeral for Rufus and they burst into tears. Yeah, that was always immediately something that I was writing into the book. Like that was one of the earliest ideas. I'm like, okay, what does a funeral look like in a world where people know they're gonna die? And that was so difficult for me to navigate, like that whole section. And I remember feeling like, am I forcing it? Like if it feels this hard, if the writing feels this hard, is it because I'm forcing it? And ultimately, I don't think I was forcing it. I think it was just a really tricky section, and it's something that required more imagination on my end, just because I haven't ever attended or witnessed a funeral where the soon-to-be deceased is there. Though that is a thing that actually happens in the world. I didn't ultimately make that up. Did I plan to give the book a different ending? Nope. And also that last line has always been the last line. Though fun fact, I keep saying fun fact, like this is a routine part of my vocabulary, but originally the book was told in only Mateo's perspective up until the point that he dies. And then once Mateo dies, sort of like the narrative baton got passed on to Rufus, and then Rufus carries the story to the end. Ultimately, I stopped that because it felt like it was then only Mateo's story, and that just didn't feel right to me. Rufus was his own person, and then I realized I didn't know that much about Rufus when it came to write that scene. Like there were so many important narrative details that sort of got excluded because a lot of it just got focused on Mateo. So, yeah. Okay, what time is it? All right, I'm gonna answer a couple more questions, and then I'm gonna try to save this live. If you're watching this after the time this live ends, that means I was successful. If not, thanks to everyone who was here. Do I identify myself more with Rufus or Mateo? Definitely more Mateo. Rufus's anger, which is the thing I'm working on, that was all me. And his outbursts and stuff like that. But Mateo's sort of shyness, his anxiety, his I'm not as soft as Mateo, like, to be clear. Mateo's also someone who I wrote where I was like, who is someone I'd like to be more like? And so Mateo is aspirational for me in a lot of ways, but yeah, it was easier for me to write Mateo just because we have a lot of the same high anxieties. Okay. I promise I'd answered this like a month ago. I need to know who and what their favorite artists, songs, albums are. Oh my god, I did promise that. I'm so sorry. I do not know. Look, Mateo is definitely a Broadway fan. He's definitely artists like Billy Joel. Billy Joel's probably one of his favorite artists, and I had a big Billy Joel phase. Vienna was one of my favorite songs, and my love for Billy Joel was passed down to me from my mom, so she really loved those sections in the book as well. I'm so sorry. I will try to come up with more answers for the music thing. Just keep nudging me. All right. Oh, what inspired the bird on the sidewalk scene? Love this question because that was based on my personal life. There are two bird scenes from Mateo. One is where he's sheltering a bird with his legs while it's pounding rain outside. That was 100% based on my childhood. And I remember seeing a couple of reviews that were like, oh, what is this fake shit or whatever. I'm like, this fake shit is my real life. So that was the thing that really happened. But thanks for being so cynical about the world that no one would protect a baby bird. And then the scene with the dead baby bird, or the dead bird, it's I remember just seeing that in South Bronx where I grew up, and was just so, while writing the book as well. And yeah, and so I just wrote that in because it just, it's mortality, and it's mortality that goes beyond human life. And I guess it's actually not surprising that I've turned into a vegan in the past 3 years, but yeah. What if Rufus died first? Yeah, I think a lot of people expect Rufus to die first which was fun for me, because I think since Mateo's the first narrator, a lot of people like to think that he's the main character, when it's no, there's just two people who are equally important, but one has to speak first. And so I think Mateo, a lot of people would probably put down money that Mateo was going to live longer, and then he doesn't. I haven't really, it's so funny, right? I haven't really stopped to think about what the story would have looked like had Rufus died first. I just sort of leaned into the story that I told. So, great question. Would Rufus and Mateo have bonded if they met under different circumstances? I don't know. Maybe not, honestly. Rufus even talks about how impatient he's getting with Mateo, and they both sort of found each other through a really unique, devastating circumstance that elevates things as well, and maybe made him a little bit more patient. But I don't think that Rufus and Mateo would have bonded at that point in time without Deathcast sort of, connecting them. But maybe later in life, they had matured and so, but yeah, I don't know. How do I feel about people writing fanfics based on the book? I love fan fiction. I'm not reading it just because there's a lot of legal reasons that I think authors should be avoiding it, but I grew up writing fan fiction, and it's how I got my start in writing, and I super encourage it. So yeah, keep going for it. Can you die without getting a call? Can Deathcast be wrong? Yeah, I mean, some people, it's funny, I had a section in a previous draft that never made its way into the final where a character like slept through their phone call and then just died, like a tragedy had happened. But, you know, Deathcast, it's not, they call between the hours, I believe it's like midnight and 3 a.m. So they've got to kind of like catch you within that time. And that's why Rufus is so pissed at 1:05 a.m. when his Deathcast operator calls him, because he's like, bro, I could have died in this past hour. Like, what were you doing? What took so long, sort of deal? Like, correct your system because, like, this sucks, you know? And it's this thing where it's like, be grateful for the warning, but also you only benefit from it if you get the warning. So, yeah. You need a link to my old Supernatural fan fiction. Not happening. Next question. Would I write a prequel set when Deathcast was introduced? That is absolutely a story that I have considered. Because I'd love to explore that time where people are adjusting to it, and it's sort of like, am I opting into this service? Am I not opting into it? Is it bullshit? Is it fake news? Sort of deal. And then you start seeing like, oh, they have 100% track record of being right. You know, like I'd be stupid to not take advantage of this. Like I get asked all the time, would I want the Deathcast call? I'm like, yes, that is literally why I wrote the book, because we don't have this thing. You have no idea how difficult it was to write that book and then return to like reality where I can't be comforted by the idea that like, guys, I could literally die today. And it'd be eerie, right? And probably like good for sales, and I wouldn't know. And that fucking sucks, right? So like, that's why I wrote the book. So please vow to me that should I die today or any day, that you buy all my books. Thank you. Would I consider going more in depth with the romance between two Deathcast workers? Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love that. Guys, I have so many Deathcast stories I want to tell, and I think if a TV show happens, it's also going to be the vehicle to allow me to tell more of these stories. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to answer like, I said this like 10 minutes ago that I was going to answer 1 or 2 more questions, but now I'm really going to answer 1 or 2 more questions. What would I recommend as an age range for my books? I don't know, like 14 and up. I think I've heard from a lot of younger people as well who are fine with the books. So, I mean, it's so subjective. It's reader by reader. So, please don't die. I'm not trying to, guys. I promise. I'm writing books about immortality for a reason. Trying to figure that shit out. If you don't get the call, are you invincible for the day? No. So that's like a point that like Mateo makes, right? Because Mateo, sorry, I don't know if I said that question clearly. If you don't get the call, are you invincible for the day? No, because you could still get hurt in a really big way that it's like, okay, you don't die on Saturday, but you went skydiving and then you got severely injured and then you die on Sunday. You could die at 12:01, right? So Mateo lives by that model of fear where he's just in paranoia, where he's like, I don't want to set my death in motion, you know, and that's why he, you know, is just so overly cautious. How would it work with deaf people? The Deathcast call, I'm assuming? Yeah, I mean, so this is the thing that I think got cut just in different perspectives, but like people get emails, people get messages and stuff like that, but I think if I ever read another Deathcast novel, I would lay out all the accessible ways that it is made for everyone. So, great question. Thank you so much. All right. Last question. Let's make it a good one. I mean, they've all been great, but and then I'm gonna like push one last book. Okay, can I scroll? Sorry, guys. This is the most boring part of the chat where I don't say anything substantial for 20 seconds. Oh, don't forget about More Happy Than Not. Thank you. I will not. Can you go against Deathcast? If you mean go against, like prove them wrong, people have literally died trying. So on that lovely note. Okay, so I think if you like They Both Die at the End, which I'm assuming you're here because you at least like it, or you were just bored and it's Saturday and we're all in quarantine and you're like, oh, well, Adam's gay ass is talking, let's go see what he has to say. I think you would like my first book, More Happy Than Not, which comes out with a deluxe edition on Tuesday, September 8th. I'm going to be in conversation with Angie Thomas here back on Instagram at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. And it's another speculative novel with gay character, gay narrator, and it's also really sad and heartbreaking. So if you're like, oh, They Both Die at the End didn't break my heart enough, I've got another one for you. If you really love like the romance and They Both Die at the End, and that's why you really gravitated to it, I'm not sure More Happy Than Not is the one for you. There are definitely some love stories in there, but they're a lot more unrequited. So just being honest about that, I'm not gonna like lie to you guys to like sell a book. But I think a lot of people who love They Both Die at the End, which my tongue twister of a title, have not tried out More Happy Than Not yet, and I think you would love it. And it also comes with a new epilogue called More Happy Ending that I wrote because of a lot of feedback and that people been wanting to see more of and get an update on the story for the past 5 years. But thank you all so much again for supporting They Both Die at the End. Why can I not say my book's title? Thank you all so much for supporting They Both Die at the End for the past 3 years, and I love this book so much. I am so grateful to my editor, Andrew Eliopoulos. Don't forget, he's an author as well. His book, The Fascinators, came out earlier this year. Gay fantasy set in Georgia. I loved it so much. It's one of the books I wish I'd had as a teen, and I'm so grateful that I got to enjoy it as an adult. And the story changed my career in a lot of ways and has allowed me to tell more of the stories that I want to tell. So thank you so much for giving me the support and the platform to be able to do all that and to tell the stories I really want to be telling, and I hope to do more and more for them. Now I'm going to go try to save this chat because I think a lot of fun shit got said here, but wish you luck, guys. Thank you so much.